So let's get into it. Macbeth's violation of kingship. So, sorry, this is kind of covered up. But first thing is our quote. The false face must hide what the false heart doth know. Act 1, Scene 7. He's basically saying, like, just to hide what you're feeling, because this is what he's trying to be deceitful. So there's a key theme here of appearance versus reality. So appearance versus reality is when he appears in one way, but the reality is very different. He is duplicitous with his intentions. So duplicitous means he is two-faced. He is two-sided with his intentions. The way he wants to appear to the world is noble, valiant, basically meaning like brave. He's a noble soldier, yet he is deceitful and malevolent. Malevolent means he's evil. So they're good words. They're duplicitous, deceitful, malevolent. So we can see that he is trying to appear in one way, yet the reality is starkly different. Because then, of course, he's trying to violate kingship, and the only way he can do that is being deceitful and being duplicitous. Also in this quote, there's the repetition on false, which is very interesting. You know, we've got false at the beginning, we've got false heart. This emphasizes his false and unnatural taking of the crown. He is a false king and doesn't have nobility, morality, or a pious nature. Pious basically means he's like religious, like strongly religious in the way that he's acting. So this is really interesting to link it to kingship, because of course he's trying to deceive everyone through his appearance versus his reality, but he doesn't have that nobility. He is a false king. So although he's trying to be false in the way he's appearing, in actual fact, it's indicating to us from the beginning, he is not a rightful king. He is not meant to have the throne. He is not meant to have the crown, because of course, he isn't the rightful king. He's not been divinely ordained. He has to violate the divine right of kings and the great chain of being in order to get that. So that's the idea of false. Really nice link there. And then another quote is, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? So he says this to the witches, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? He's not actually talking literally about clothes. Robes are like clothes. But he's basically suggesting when they say to him about being the Thane of Cawdor. So of course, he's Thane of Glamis at the beginning. The witches come to him and they're like, you're going to be the Thane of Cawdor, then you're going to be king. And then of course he does become Thane of Cawdor, not because of the witches, but because he was good in battle. And then when they say that to him, he's like, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? Why are you giving me this title that technically isn't mine? Now, this is really significant. So there is a motif of clothing. Now, a motif is a recurring symbol or theme. So there's a recurring symbol of clothing throughout the play. A motif of clothing. So clothing is something physical and temporary. You can remove clothing. It's not permanent. It's physical. You can literally remove it, right? And it can be easily removed. So this is like his title as king. It is not permanent, due to the sinful extraction of it. He has not been divinely ordained. He has not been divinely ordained by God to become the king. So just the like when he's talking about these borrowed robes are something temporary, it's just alike to his title being temporary. And we can also say this foreshadows how temporary his title is, because of course he's not king till the end of the play, because he gets killed and Malcolm becomes the king. He's the rightful king, right? So that is a kind of really nice interpretation about motif. And why motif is really good as well, guys, is because you're looking at it across the whole play. And that is a high level skill, to look at a technique across the whole play rather than just like one part of the play. That's what higher level students do, because you're looking at it across the whole text rather than just one isolated part of the text. Lexis on borrowed. Lexis just means word choice. So it's just like a nice fancy way of saying, instead of saying the word borrowed, just say the Lexis borrowed. This again shows the temporal nature of his power, and that is emphasised again. So we get this real sense of this temporary power. There's this lack of permanence. It's quite transient. Transient means it's not permanent. It's like fleeting. So it's transient. So there's that real emphasis, especially in Act 1, Scene 3, from the beginning of the play, that this temporary power is evident, and this kingship, because it's not his rightful kingship, will not be long lasting. And then this is just another little extra grade 9 nugget of information. In Act 5, Angus, who you don't need to know who Angus is, but Angus is a character, he says this about Macbeth: does feel his title hang loose about him like a giant's robe upon a dwarfish thief. Again, the motif of clothes, that being borrowed. And he's talking about here that Macbeth's clothes are too big for him, as in the role was too big for him and he couldn't fulfill it. So you can you reference that quote if you wanted to add on to your analysis, and just reference that motif of clothes is also extended in Act 5. So we see it extended throughout the entirety of the play. So I'm going to let you guys get a second to write that down. And we've got a nice bit of motif in the Lightup Hub as well, if you want that in a bit more detail when you guys get it tomorrow. The best violation of kingship. So upon my head they placed a fruitless crown. So this is in Act 3, Scene 1. Love this quote for kingship. I think it's really, really significant. So the diction on placed. Again, diction is the same as lexis. It just means word choice. So if you're going to say word choice, either say the diction or the lexis. Just a fancy way of saying it. So the diction placed, it shows it's been carefully crafted, not naturally given. Think if you place something, it's like with intention. You're putting something there on purpose. Again, that reinforces that this isn't natural. This kingship is not natural. It's been crafted, okay? He has meticulously manipulated his position as king. So it's not rightful. It's not his natural position as king. He has manipulated it. That's really, really significant. He's manipulated it. It's been placed upon him, not given to him. He's taken it for his own to do with it what he will. The adjective fruitless. Now, I really like this bit of analysis. I think it's really good and high level. Being a king is synonymous. Synonymous means like closely linked with being fruitful to their people in terms of leadership and morality. So what I mean by that is being king, when they think about being king, or if you think about, a king or a queen, they're meant to lead their people, they're meant to be moral, they're meant to be a good example. So typically we see being a king is being like fruitful, so like full of leadership and morality. That's how we closely link them, right? But Macbeth's omission, so like a lack of fruit, because it's fruitless, that's an omission of fruit, it's not there, signifies his tainted kingship and how he's violated natural order to acquire this. Tainted means it's like stained. So the fact that he has got a fruitless crown rather than a fruitful crown shows that he doesn't have this leadership and he doesn't have this morality. He is not fruitful in those characteristics we would typically see in a leader like a king. Because of course, it's not a natural position. He has violated the natural order. He's violated the great chain of being. He's violated the divine right of kings in order to attain this position. So he has tainted that. That is why it's fruitless. And the fact that he recognizes that shows that recognition. He understands he will never be a natural king. That's really important to note as well. Really like that bit of analysis. The idea that king is synonymous with being fruitful in leadership, and Macbeth is obviously the antithesis of that. He's the opposite of that because he doesn't naturally acquire. He's not been divinely ordained. Always really key to note. And then linked to context here. His conscience, so conscience is like conscience, and that's knowing right from wrong, is riddled with the awareness of his violation of this foundational fact of life. What I mean by awareness of this violation, he is aware that he has violated foundational facts of life. In the different era. In the Jacobean era, great chain of being and the divine right of kings would have been seen as foundational facts of life. They just accepted facts of life. People just didn't not believe them. They were fact. It wasn't like, oh, I don't know if I believe in God. Everybody believed in God. So he would have been very aware at the time that he has violated these foundational facts of life. Great chain of being and the divine right of kings. And we see that because he's aware. He's got this fruitless crown. He knows that. He has gone against his creator. So he knows that he has gone against God. And he knows he'll be punished for it. But he almost goes on this tyrannical rampage. Tyrannical being like a cruel or oppressive leader. He goes on this tyrannical rampage because he knows almost there's no saving him. He's already committed. The worst act he could commit is regicide. Regicide is killing of the king. He has killed the king. And of course we know in terms of the great chain of being, the pyramid we had, he's basically killed God because God has chosen the king. So he has committed the ultimate sin and he knows he's going to be punished for that. And we start to see that awareness seeping in. But it almost comes to a point in a play where he understands how far he's gone in terms of the violation of kingship and the violation of God, that he just continues on.